The night before we broke up, I had a fierce battle with my school beauty girlfriend. We went at it for 300 rounds. Little did I expect that, 2 weeks later, she would come crashing through my front door. She threw a pregnancy test stick right in my face, her eyes full of fury. "I'm pregnant. With yours." I stared, dumbfounded, at the 2 red lines on the test. Then I looked up, meeting the eyes of Liu Yan, standing in the doorway. "WC, you're actually pregnant?" At that moment, my sleep-deprived brain suddenly snapped to full attention. Without missing a beat, Liu Yan barged into my place. Like a little gangster, she flopped down on the sofa. "Jibada," she said casually, calling me by my nickname. "You're going to take responsibility for me, or I'll tell everyone you abandoned your wife and kid." I was still staring blankly at the pregnancy test in my hand. She was actually pregnant, and it was a one-shot deal. 2 weeks ago, right before our breakup, we'd gotten carried away and fought for 300 rounds. Afterward, I couldn't even walk properly for 2 days. If I calculated the timeline, it had to be mine. Just as I was in a daze, I noticed some red smudges on my hand for no apparent reason. The pregnancy test, which had 2 lines earlier, now only showed 1. The next second, I looked up, my expression blank. Then the murderous intent kicked in. "Liu Yan, I'm going to strangle you." I charged at her in a fit of rage. But Liu Yan wasn't the slightest bit worried. She immediately threw herself into my arms. It was like she'd done this 1,000 times before. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get away. I could only glare at her in frustration. At that moment, Liu Yan smirked lazily. "Big brother, you figured it out, huh? But luckily, I've already successfully hooked myself onto you." I was so angry I turned bright red. "Liu Yan, do you have no shame?" The next second, Liu Yan tightened her grip around my neck a little more. "2 weeks ago, you had your fun, then vanished without a trace. You didn't even give a reason for breaking up. Mentioning 2 weeks ago made me feel a little guilty." I gave a vague explanation. "I just felt like we weren't right for each other. So, we broke up." Liu Yan sneered. "You sure seemed to enjoy yourself that night. How come you didn't say we weren't right for each other back then?" I clenched my jaw, ears burning, and stayed silent. When I didn't respond, her eyes darkened a bit. Then she let out a cold laugh. "Since you won't say anything, then I'm not leaving. Big brother, let's just drag this out slowly." With that, Liu Yan flopped down on my couch. She boldly declared that either I tell her the real reason we broke up, or we get back together. But I didn't want to agree to either. All I could do was helplessly close the door behind me. If I'd known how this would turn out, I never would have gotten involved with her. Liu Yan was 6 years younger than me. She was a lively, beautiful college student. I met her through my sister. My sister, this stubborn cow, never bowed to anyone in her life. But after she entered university, she couldn't stop talking about a classmate named Liu Yan. She'd tell me how Liu Yan came from a prestigious family, with fair skin, beautiful features, and long legs. Her grades were top-notch, and she had a whole crowd of admirers. But what really stood out was that Liu Yan treated my sister especially well. After a few encounters, I started thinking my sister was being stalked by some creepy girl. So I went straight to my sister's university and met this Liu Yan for the first time. My sister wasn't wrong. Her classmate was, without a doubt, the true campus goddess. There was no reason for her to be interested in my sweet, naive sister. So I felt relieved and was about to leave. But just then, Liu Yan chased after me, her eyes burning with intensity. "Big brother, can we add each other on WeChat?" For some bizarre reason, I agreed. And then she started pursuing me relentlessly. Her proactive, passionate approach was hard to resist. But the real killer was those long legs of hers. So it didn't take long before we ended up together. Of course, this was all behind my naive sister's back. And so, whenever Liu Yan didn't have classes, she would come over to my place, playing with my Gatling gun in my rented apartment. She was quite clingy. Those days, we were inseparable. I thought our sibling-like relationship would eventually lead to something more permanent. That was until Liu Yan's mother came knocking at my door. She opened with a cold demand. I should stay away from Liu Yan. I tried to convince her mother with words about the deep, unshakable bond between us. But all I got in return was her mocking, sarcastic response. One phrase stuck in my mind: "You can't give her a future." I felt like she slammed me to the ground and rubbed it in. And when I saw the $1 million necklace around her neck, I suddenly realized I really wasn't worthy. After all, her family lived in Rome, and I was just a small-town nobody. As I lay on the bed, reminiscing about all these unbearable past events, just as I was sinking into those painful memories, the door to my room clicked open. Then I felt someone embrace me from behind, and a warm, lingering kiss pressed against the back of my neck. I tried my best to suppress the conflicting emotions inside me. I gently pushed back with my elbow, trying to create some space. "Liu Yan, let go of me. I'll remind you one last time. We're broken up. This is harassment." I made a point to act distant, indifferent, but Liu Yan nibbled on my ear lightly. "I didn't agree to break up. Liu Yan, I'm informing you. We've already broken up. And I'm not asking for your opinion. I don't care," she muttered as she skillfully lifted my shirt. "Get out of here. I miss you. Big brother, please don't reject me." Her voice was husky, with a deliberately seductive undertone. It made my limbs go weak in an instant. I tried to push her away, but my hand ended up around her neck. Half pushing, half giving in, we ended up tangled up once more. The next morning, I was woken up by her kiss. Liu Yan still clung to me, not letting go. I slowly came to my senses. Then I suddenly shot up, sitting upright. In Liu Yan's blurry gaze, I shoved her off forcefully. "Get out! If you ever do this again, I'll call the police." Liu Yan sat on the floor, stunned, staring at me in disbelief. "Last night was an accident. If any other girl kissed me, I wouldn't have refused. So don't come bothering me. Otherwise, it's going to be really awkward if you two run into each other." Liu Yan bit her lip tightly, her eyes filled with sadness and disappointment. The next second, she put on her clothes. With a cold expression, she turned and left without another word. Then I heard the door slam shut, the sound echoing through the room. I deleted all of Liu Yan's contact information. Then I moved again. In my quieter moments, Liu Yan would always come to mind. Every time I thought about all the little things with her, a bitter taste would spread in my heart. The bitterness made my eyes well up with unbidden tears. After that, I kept avoiding Liu Yan, burying myself in work to numb the pain. I was terrified that one day, I'd accidentally hear about Liu Yan being in a new relationship. Then one day, a colleague noticed I was off and dragged me out for a meal. I didn't know what kind of event was going on at this restaurant today, but it was packed. While eating, I got up to go to the bathroom, but as I turned the corner, I saw a shy young man confessing to a beautiful girl. I froze in place. What a coincidence, I had just run into my ex. And as soon as she noticed the sound of my footsteps, she turned her head toward me. Our gazes locked. And for a moment, the air between us was thick with awkwardness. As I hesitated, ready to turn and leave, Liu Yan's voice suddenly darkened. "Ji ba da. Try to take one step and see what happens." I didn't move. "I'm not going anywhere." But in the next moment, I bolted. I ran as fast as I could. But just a few steps later, someone grabbed me. And before I knew it, I was trapped against the wall. My escape route was completely blocked. "I knew you'd run. You liar." She hugged me even tighter, her possessiveness exploding in an instant. It was just like those nights when she used to pout and cling to me, making it impossible to resist. Just as my face reddened from the situation, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the boy staring at us, shocked. I panicked and quickly tried to explain. Hey, don't misunderstand. I'm his older brother. The hostility on the boy's face finally eased up, but Liu Yuyan wasn't happy with that. Big brother. She giggled to herself, then tilted her head, pretending to go in for a kiss. She was always so bold, completely unaware of the situation or place. I squeezed her arm hard enough to make her pause for a second. I was about to say something when, just at that moment, a stranger walked by. Seeing the narrow space we were blocking, he awkwardly spoke up. Hey, could you take your PDA elsewhere? Buddy, I really need to pee. Finally, Liu Yuyan let go of me and stepped aside. I saw my chance and like lightning, I slid out of there, running as fast as I could. Luckily, the restaurant was crowded today, and my colleague and I were sitting in a corner. Liu Yuyan lost track of me. She stood there, her face dark with fury. Before long, my sister managed to talk her into going into a private room. I quickly looked away, letting out a relieved breath. But my mood sank again. Almost immediately, Liu Yuyan must have been here for that networking event, right? With so many guys her age, she definitely finds someone who suits her better. Maybe that's a good thing. This way, I won't be the one holding her back. After finishing dinner with my colleague and saying goodbye, I went to hail a ride home. But to my surprise, my phone was missing. I figured I must have dropped it in the restaurant. That meant I had to go back. I gritted my teeth. I just hoped I wouldn't run into Liu Yuyan again. But the more you try to avoid something, the more it seems to happen. As soon as I stepped out of the restaurant, I saw her again. She must have been drunk. Her lashes fluttered and her body swayed unsteadily. Then suddenly, she rubbed her belly, looking strangely lonely and pitiful. I tried hard to harden my heart, but it just wouldn't harden. Sighing, I walked toward her. Stomach bothering you? Hearing my voice, she sluggishly looked up at me. Her eyes, which had been unfocused a moment ago, immediately snapped into sharp focus. My stomach hurts so much. I need my big brother's kiss to feel better. Even when drunk, she never stopped being mischievous. I gave her a cold glance. Then I pulled out my phone and dialed my sister. No one answered. As expected, this girl was also tipsy. I sighed and looked at her, already starting to. Boldly, she reached for my hand. If I take you back to the dorm, will anyone take care of you? No! How about your roommates or classmates? They're staying out all night. Then I'll take you to a hotel. I'm allergic to hotels. One night there and I break out in rashes. Remember when we used to go 2 hotels and sleep to a bed? Never knew you had this kind of problem. I kept swallowing my frustration again and again. Then where do you want to go? She completely wrapped herself around me. Like a spoiled brat, she buried her face in the crook of my neck. Big brother, I want to go to your place. To make sure my ex wouldn't end up drunk and alone, I had no choice but to take her home with me. The whole way. The girl who was so weak just moments ago that she could barely stand without clinging to me, now started scanning her surroundings as if she were fully alert. I couldn't be bothered to deal with her. Let her remember the way if she wanted. Worst case, I'd move again. Let her play out her 3 hiding places scheme, see if I could drive her crazy. When I finally unlocked the door to my apartment, Liu Yuyan's gaze became dazed again. She clung to me, babbling nonsense. One minute, she was calling me big brother. The next, hubby. Then baby. She drunkenly called out every nickname she could think of. Her voice, hoarse and breathy, making me feel both embarrassed and flustered. I regretted it. I should have just dumped her on the street and let her deal with herself. Sighing, I let her sleep in my bed. Then I took off her shoes and wiped her face gently, being as careful and tender as I could. The drunken girl had a flush creeping up her cheeks. Her flawless features made my heart race. I couldn't keep my thoughts straight. I couldn't resist. I lightly brushed her nose with my fingers. If only we were the same age, then maybe I could be braver. I blinked, feeling that familiar sourness in my chest. Just as I was about to pretend nothing happened and pull my hand away, Her hand shot out, grabbing mine. I didn't realize when Liu Yuyan had opened her eyes. She was staring straight at me with a lazy yet confident smile. Ji ba da. You're lying. You're clearly head over heels for me. I didn't let go. Cough, no! You must be mistaken. I was just helping you swat a mosquito. Liu Yuyan snorted, playfully squeezing my hand. Her touch was light, warm, and teasing. I'm not stupid, big brother. Someone must have said something to you. No one. I nervously denied it. But Liu Yuyan kept her gaze locked on mine, trying to figure me out. Damn. Was it your parents? Or a colleague, a neighbor? She paused, her tone suddenly colder. Or was it my mom who found you? I closed my eyes in frustration. Girls these days are too smart. I couldn't really blame myself for this, but I didn't nod or confirm it, because I wasn't sure what would happen once I told her the truth. How would Liu Yuyan choose after that? Family is important. Love is important too. Two equally important things, yet fundamentally different. Which one would Liu Yuyan pick? And which one would she throw away? I didn't want to force her into that choice. Just as I was about to gently start a conversation to guide her, I realized she was already completely passed out, still holding my hand. Her breathing deepened, her brows furrowed slightly. I watched her for a while, then quietly slipped my hand away and moved to the couch. The next day, I left for work before Liu Yuyan woke up. My mind was a mess all day. I had no idea if she had woken up yet, or if she had overslept and missed class. I had no idea if her head still hurt. This motherly concern for her was really making me laugh and cry at the same time. I should stop worrying so much. After all, there's no chance for her and me anymore. When I got home that evening, I realized I was missing a set of keys. On the coffee table, there was a note. Big brother. I took the keys. I paused thinking, crap. I guess I'll have to move again. But looking at my bank balance, I was close to tears. Running away from her was getting expensive. I couldn't afford it anymore. But even though Liu Yuyan had taken my house keys, she didn't come back to my place. It was nothing like her usual bold and dramatic style. I thought maybe she'd suddenly come to her senses and given up on reconciling. That was until my sister's 18th birthday. My sister always went to school early. She was a year younger than her classmates, which meant when Liu Yuyan was 19, she had already tasted every kind of flavor. Meanwhile, my sister was still playing with her childish little toys. The difference between these two girls was stark. The goddess and that other girl. The contrast was huge. For my sister's birthday, my parents really wanted to make it special. They even considered giving her some money so she could go out with her friends. But my sister, knowing how tight things were at home, refused to take our money. Instead, she planned a simple gathering at home, inviting her friends over for a home-cooked meal, cheap and warm. To avoid Liu Yuyan causing a scene, the day before my sister's birthday, I gently asked her, "Are your dorm mates coming over for your birthday?" "Yeah, but Liu Yuyan won't be coming. It seems like she had an argument with her mom recently. She just went straight home after class today." I forced a smile. "Your roommate is that rebellious?" My sister lowered her voice, clearly upset. "Our Yuyan is not rebellious. She's just fighting against that damn fascist control. Her family is insanely rich, but her mom places ridiculously high demands on her. It's kind of twisted, actually. She has to follow every plan her mom sets for her, studying abroad, or marrying a certain person, and then taking over the family business. Our Yuyan just snapped and ran away from home. Her mom realized she hit a wall, and that's when she finally backed off. Otherwise, she'd still be out there working to support herself. I struggled to ask, when did she start working? It was back in her freshman year, before she came to visit me. She had just stopped working then. She was about to collapse from exhaustion. We were also worried for her. My sister got more and more emotional. In the end, she pouted and leaned on me. Luckily, mom and dad have always let you raise me with freedom. That's why I'm so happy. You're just too clueless. I chuckled and gently pushed her away. But inside, a heavy, tight feeling grew. I always thought Liu or Yin was just some rich kid. Someone who didn't have to worry about money. Someone who didn't need to fight for the future. Living however she wanted, carefree and bold. She always hid it so well in front of me. But I never realized she was actually the one with the most struggles. And I had just pushed her further into the fire. I wanted to give Liu or Yin a call. But I was afraid her mom might find out. If that happened, it would only escalate the family drama even more. Forget it. Once she's back at school, we'll have a proper talk. The next day, it was my sister's birthday. As her brother, I had to go back and help entertain her friends. As soon as I walked through the door, I saw a beautiful girl standing next to my mom. The girl must have said something nice, because my mom's eyes were almost squinted in joy. Maybe she noticed my confused gaze, because she suddenly looked up at me. Her face stood out, glowing brightly in our simple and cozy home. It looked almost too dazzling for this place. She smiled lightly. "Brother, you're back." Her tone was so obedient, so well-behaved. Gone was the usual mischievous, rebellious attitude she always had with me. It seemed like she was in a good mood. Maybe her talk with her mom had gone smoothly? Or was she just pretending again? But with so many people around, I only gave her a brief look, a silent warning to keep her distance. She raised an eyebrow in response. My mom didn't sense any tension between us and pulled me over to entertain the guests. As parents get older, they worry about making my sister's friends uncomfortable, so they excuse themselves with the excuse of going for a walk. I had no choice but to handle everything myself. Luckily, my sister's friends were all sweet talkers. I had heard they were all excited to meet my handsome older brother. Turns out they weren't exaggerating. "Wow, brother, please sit. You don't need to pour drinks for us. That's my brother. Don't call him anything else." I patted my sister on the head, annoyed at her antics. I gave a gentle smile, exchanging pleasantries with my sister's friends. "What else do you guys want to eat? I can cook, or we can order something." "No, we're fine." "Brother, sit down. Let's eat first, then we can play some games together." "Sure." I was trying to figure out a way to politely decline when I felt someone's hand subtly grip mine from the side. It was that familiar, soft squeeze. "Come on, let's play for a bit, brother." Her voice was slow as usual. I turned to look at her, giving a silent warning with my eyes. But she just smiled back at me, unbothered. I could feel my ears burning, embarrassed. I had no idea when she had slipped so close to me. She was now smiling at me, almost like she was teasing. Thankfully, the hand she was holding onto me was hidden under the table, so no one could see. During dinner, I intentionally kept a bit of distance from her, trying to be casual so no one would notice. But of course, this girl didn't make it easy. She kept putting food on my plate, peeling shrimp for me. When I choked a little, she immediately reached for a glass of water and handed it to me. Her unusual behavior immediately caught my sister's attention. She blinked, confused, and looked between the two of us. "Bro, when did you and Yuyan get so close?" I coughed awkwardly, not knowing how to explain. "Well, ... We just hit it off when we met. We really clicked. One look, and it felt like we'd known each other forever." I nodded quickly, not really thinking of the right words. It was close enough, right? My sister looked like she was about to ask something else, but another classmate called her name, and her attention was quickly diverted. I sighed in relief. I quickly turned to sneakily pinch. She didn't flinch, her face still calm. She just kept nudging my leg under the table, unfazed, still teasing me in that lazy, familiar way. After dinner, I simply cleared the table. Then I stayed to play games with these young folks. A very cliche game of truth or dare. We spun a bottle on the table. Whoever the bottle pointed to had to take the punishment. At first, they were still a little reserved. But soon, with the alcohol kicking in, they were all hyped up. The atmosphere got lively. Luckily, the neighbors who lived near me had already moved out. Otherwise, we have definitely been interrupted by someone knocking on the door. I watched them play with a smile. Liu Ruyan, however, kept glancing at me. Suddenly, the bottle pointed to me. The girl who'd caused the problem scratched her head awkwardly. Big brother, do you choose truth or dare? I thought for a moment. Truth, I guess? That's a good question. Big brother, do you still love your ex-girlfriend? My younger sister snorted a laugh. She waved her hand dismissively. My brother's never even had a girlfriend. Where would a former girlfriend even come from? If he had one, I would have scared her away a long time ago. Then I'll ask another question. I softly spoke. Actually, I've dated before. I have had a relationship. My younger sister was stunned. Under the intense gaze of everyone around me, I slowly answered the question. Yes, I still love her. Then someone beside me chuckled lightly. It was a soft, endless laugh. The mood felt suddenly lighter, almost perfect, except my sister, who was still in shock. The others all wore that familiar anti-smile. The bottle continued to spin. This time, it pointed to Liu Ruyan, who was sitting beside me. Truth? How coincidental, Liu Ruyan. Same question as before. Do you still love your ex? I nervously lowered my gaze. My ears, however, quietly perked up. I only heard the girl lazily say, yes, if it weren't for the legal age, I would have dragged him to the Civil Affairs Bureau by now. A chorus of ancestral-like gasps echoed through the room. They must have been recalling the time when Liu Ruyan was in a bad mood because of her ex. Who would have thought she was so caught up in love? Liu Ruyan just smiled and didn't say anything more. Meanwhile, I had my head tilted back, my face completely flushed. To prevent my sister from grilling me about my love life, I made an excuse and rushed to the bathroom. As I bent down to wash my hands, my heartbeat was still racing uncontrollably. This is bad. I just spoke my heart out. And I even know what kind of devilish idea Liu Ruyan has. She's seriously thinking about marriage at this age? Forget it. Once my sister's curiosity is satisfied, I'll have a talk with her. I mainly need to understand what happened between her and her mom during this fight. If she chooses family, I'll let go of her completely. If she chooses me, I'll do everything I can to pull her away from that dangerous path. Just as I was lost in these thoughts, the bathroom door was gently pushed open. I was about to awkwardly call out that someone was coming in, when I was suddenly hugged tightly from behind. A pair of small hands reached around, asking me to wash my hands with her. I panicked, my eyelashes fluttering wildly. I whispered at the person, Liu Ruyan, what if someone sees us? Liu Ruyan moved even closer and said, so what if they do? What's the big deal about me and my husband washing our hands together? Have some shame, will you? I let out a couple of f's. She grabbed two pieces of paper and wiped my hands dry. Then she turned me around to face her, standing face to face. Her expression was unusually serious. Gee bada, what I just said was true. My gaze wandered. What's true? Wanting to marry you and love you, it's all true. I already know my mom came to find you. You don't need to listen to what she said, because I won't listen to her either. I hesitated. But, there's no but. Just trust me. Then she told me. The reason her mother was so strict with her was because of her dad. When Liu Ruyan was little, her father had an affair. Normally, in the world of the rich, these things aren't a big deal. But Liu's mom, with her proud, high and mighty attitude, went to catch him in the act, hoping to find out which young woman was trying to climb the ranks. But instead, she was left speechless. The mistress was actually a woman 6 years older than Liu's mom. Her face was ashen, her hair dry and brittle, cowering behind Liu's dad. She was a stark contrast to Liu's mom, who was glamorous and proud. Liu's dad couldn't believe his family was being destroyed by someone so much older than him. He was in disbelief that an older woman had ruined his family. At the time, Liu Ruyan had been forced to come along. She had watched the drama unfold with indifference, then coldly told her father, "You're really hungry, huh?" Liu's dad nearly lost his composure, but he still shielded the mistress. Afterward, her parents got divorced. Liu's mom, with a huge fortune, was thriving. Liu's dad and the mistress were living quite happily. The mistress even had a daughter the same age as Liu Ruyan. She directly got involved in the family's inheritance dispute. This completely broke Liu's mom. So she began to impose strict rules on Liu Ruyan, forbidding her from interacting with any older men. That's why, when she found out you're 6 years older than me, she was devastated. I felt a bit uncomfortable hearing this. Liu's mom wasn't actually that high and mighty. She'd just been hurt so deeply by her marriage. So she became fearful. Ultimately, it was all the man's fault. That damn woman. It's okay. She figured it out on her own. Talking more won't help. As long as you're with me, that's all that matters. Her tone was firm, and she made me, already unsure, feel completely dizzy. If she's this brave, then I have to stand by her too. I'll listen to you. Good boy, big brother. Then let's kiss. Liu Ruyan leaned in, her voice raspy. I obediently laid in her arms, bending down to kiss her. Just as she was lifting me up to set me on the sink, the bathroom door suddenly slammed open. I grudgingly tilted my head, only to find myself face to face with my sister's stunned expression. Everything went black in front of me. This is bad. The whole of Northwest Shaanxi was probably in complete chaos right now. Everything was a mess. My sister snapped out of it, shaking and pointing at the two of us. You too! What are you two doing? Liu Ruyan, I treated you like a sister, and you went after my brother? I knew it. You were always so interested in my brother's business. So you were plotting something all along. Liu Ruyan, unbothered, leisurely wiped my lips. Then she gave my sister a dissatisfied glance. Next time, remember to knock. Don't disturb me and your brother. My sister rolled her eyes in frustration. I pushed Liu Ruyan away. Shut up. Don't add fuel to the fire. I didn't know our sister was this fragile. My sister was already grinding her teeth, ready to snap at us. I quickly pulled my sister back to our room. Time for some sibling heart-to-heart. I've always had a good relationship with my sister since we were little. I even took care of her more than our parents did. But now, talking about love felt oddly awkward, especially since my girlfriend is her roommate. I'm not listening. My sister's face turned darker than the bottom of a pot. She had that "don't talk to me" expression on. Break up with her. Wait, no! What's the deal with your ex? My sister finally realized. I awkwardly scratched my hand. I gave a shy smile. It's her. We had an argument before. My sister was now numb to everything. So she was hurt because of you? You moved out overnight because of her? You two played a game of cat and mouse? Are you now stuck in a mess? So I'm just a part of your little drama? Normally, if she said something so rebellious, I would have slapped her right then and there. But today, she was kind of pitiful. So I let it slide. We just like each other. So we're together. How long? 6 months. My sister let out a cold laugh. Then she started rummaging through things. I was suspicious. What are you looking for? A knife. I'll kill her. After sending the classmates who came to the party off, I told my parents to go to bed. Then I started cleaning up the mess with my sister. Of course, Liu Ruyan happily stayed behind to help. My sister, on the other hand, was practically fuming. The entire night, she kept snorting in annoyance. As for Liu Ruyan, she kept teasing her, being her usual annoying self. It made my sister practically explode with rage. By the time I was ready to leave with Liu Ruyan to go back to the rental, my sister followed us. Her face was stiff. Liu Ruyan, don't think you can take advantage of my brother. Big brother. Tonight, we're sleeping on your couch. I, who had planned to catch up with my girlfriend, was now preparing to stay up late with Liu Ruyan. What if the kid doesn't listen? You just spoil them. So I ended up bringing back a very sulking sister and a very irritable Liu Ruyan to the rental. I went to wash up first, leaving the two of them on the couch, staring at each other in silence. Later that night, my sister curled up in one corner of the couch. Liu Ruyan sat in the other. They looked like two perfectly matched troublemakers. I was at my wit's end. I shut the door and went to bed. Liu Ruyan made this mess, so she'd have to fix it herself. But then in the middle of the night, I was startled awake by the sound of the bed sinking. I turned my head and saw it was Liu Ruyan. She pouted and whispered, trying to act cute. "You're so annoying. Don't talk about her." Okay, I won't say anything. When she's asleep, let's kiss, little one. Just as we were about to kiss, the door to the room suddenly swung open. My sister appeared at the doorway. "What are you two doing?" In that split second, I saw countless curses flash across Liu Ruyan's face. Even with her strong mental fortitude, she couldn't kiss me in front of my sister, so she awkwardly pulled away. My sister, proud as ever, let out a hum. I was caught between crying and laughing. The next day, I grabbed my girlfriend, who was yawning. "Don't tease her at school anymore. What if she wakes up and cuts ties with you?" Liu Ruyan took the opportunity to kiss me. "Don't worry, it won't happen. Tomorrow, I'll make her call me sister-in-law and behave. She won't disturb us anymore." I thought she was just saying that out of frustration, but to my surprise, the next day, they both came to my rental. My sister was trailing behind Liu Ruyan, looking like someone had sucked all the life out of her. "What's going on here?" Liu Ruyan smiled faintly. "She didn't like me at first. Then we played tennis all afternoon. And what happened? She got crushed, and she agreed to my relationship with you." My sister, standing nearby, crossed her arms. "I didn't agree. I just didn't oppose it. If you two break up, I'll definitely oppose it." My sister was still a bit awkward, but at least she wasn't angry with Liu Ruyan anymore. As usual, we all went to class and then back to the dorm. After hesitating for a long time, I finally decided to take the initiative. I came clean to my parents about everything. They were silent for a moment after hearing it. "Is it that tall, beautiful girl from before?" "Yes," my mom smiled and nodded. "That's good, as long as you think she's right for you. Anyway, I like her." My dad waved his hand, telling me to make my own decision. When Liu Ruyan heard that evening, she showed up at our door with a pile of food. She asked about everyone's well-being, spoke sweetly, and tried to win the elders' favor. Though my sister wasn't happy about it, she reluctantly helped her out to gain some points. The atmosphere was warm and harmonious, but it didn't last long. Soon, Liu Ruyan's mother came knocking. This time, the ring she wore could probably buy our entire street. I acted calm on the outside, but my legs were shaking like crazy underneath. Liu Ruyan's mom measured me with a cold, distant gaze. I have to admit, Liu Ruyan's bad girl look really did have some of her mom's charm. Of course, I'm not saying Liu Ruyan's mom is a bad person. After all, she's also a victim in her own way. Ji ba da. I looked into you. You went to a 985 university for your undergraduate degree. After graduation, you landed a job in a big company. Your life seems clean and bright, with a strong work ethic. I couldn't help but swallow nervously. Thank you, Auntie. My daughter is stubborn and rebellious. She even has a bit of a pathological possessiveness. Do you really think you can handle being with her for the long term? I exhaled a sigh of relief. She didn't just throw me a check and tell me to leave. I thought for a couple of seconds before speaking up. I really like her. I think all her flaws are cute. Really? What if in the future she falls in love with someone else? After marriage, if she cheats ... I paused, then answered with certainty. I'll leave decisively. This time, Liu Ruyan's mom was taken aback. She sneered. I thought you'd say she wouldn't cheat. I smiled as well. People's hearts are unpredictable, even if the outcome isn't good. I've enjoyed the time I spent with her, and that's enough for me. Liu Ruyan's mom sat there for a long time, silent. I didn't know if my words had any effect on her, just as I was about to pour out more soul food. Liu Ruyan's mom finally showed a content smile. You're right, but I don't want to be a grandmother before my daughter graduates. This is troubling. My face turned bright red. I stammered, I won't let that happen. Liu Ruyan's mom helped me close the open drawer, then stood up and left. Her back straight, exuding pride and elegance. A woman's journey in life is like this. First, staying at her father's house for a time, then living with her husband for a few years, and finally settling with her daughter. Her life passes by like a guest, only to eventually become like drifting leaves in the wind or floating water lily. It's sad, yet respectable. The next day, when I went to pick up Liu Ruyan from school, I told her about her mom's visit. When she heard this, she immediately smiled meaningfully. She's thought things through, hasn't she? Besides that, did she say anything else to you? I smiled. She also asked what you'd do if you cheated. I'd hold on to you. I'm not going to cheat, okay? You're so sure about that. I don't believe it. I teased her with a smile. After all, my sister said a guy confessed to you today. It was a big deal. Liu Ruyan, in front of many classmates, directly took my hand. She walked confidently with me. I straight up said, I have a boyfriend. If we get married, he can handle everything, even the wedding details. It was a really heart-piercing line, but it made me feel oddly comfortable inside. I leaned into her as we walked towards the rental apartment. By the way, when my mom asked you that question, how did you answer? I answered truthfully. I told her I'd run for my life. Liu Ruyan's face instantly darkened. She gritted her teeth and leaned in, kissing me on the cheek. I wouldn't cheat. After all, I like you too much. Then I guess I can't be too sure. After all, you fell for me at first sight. That's called love at first sight, or perhaps lust. She huffed. Brother, you're wrong. In fact, I've known you for a long time. I've been planning this for a while. I was stunned when I heard that. Wait, when did you even know me? But Liu Ruyan only smiled mischievously. I'll tell you tonight after we pull an all-nighter. Liu Ruyan's side story. When I got back to my dorm, a few of my roommates were causing a commotion. Ji Xiao, you're such a brother complex person. One phone call from your brother and you'll drop everything and leave. My promotion match is coming up. Oops, sorry, girls. Ji Xiao smiled and admitted her mistake. But my roommates took advantage of the situation and pinned her down. Let's see a picture of your brother and we'll let you off the hook. Come on, show us. You can only look for a second though. Ruyan, come over here. My roommates called me over. I lazily leaned in. Here I am. I'd always known that Ji Xiao had a brother, because she often talked about him in the dorm. She'd say her brother was handsome, gentle, and incredibly kind to her. She'd go on about how great he was. She even said that when someone marries him, she'd investigate that person's entire family background. I never really understood her obsession with him, until the moment Ji Xiao finally pulled out her brother's photo and showed it to us. I froze in place. Because I knew him back during my time at GK. To escape my mom's control, I resolutely applied to a university far away. A university. My mother, with her extreme controlling tendencies, was furious. She stopped my living allowance, refused to pay for my tuition, trying to force me into studying abroad. But I didn't hesitate to enter a factory and worked hard, tightening screws to earn my own money. When the first year of university started, I dragged my luggage out of the train station, but it was pouring rain. I didn't want to buy an umbrella, so I decided to wait in a corner. Auntie, here's an umbrella for you. Get home early. A soft male voice sounded from above me. Then an umbrella was pressed into my hand. When I looked up, I only saw a young man's profile. Beneath his soft, short hair, He was smiling brightly, the sunlight making his smile even warmer. It was a smile I couldn't forget. Later, my mom lowered her head. I still occasionally passed by that train station, but I never saw him again. It turns out he was my roommate's real brother. His name was Jibata. I couldn't help but smile. A smile crept up on my lips. After that, I treated Ji Xiaoxiao really well, and from her, I learned more about her brother. Just when I was planning to come up with an excuse to meet Jibata, he came to me on his own. I didn't know what misunderstanding he had, but as soon as he saw me, he became very wary, as though I might hurt his sister. Oh, he didn't remember me, and he thought I might lead his sister astray. It was fine. I just let him get to know me again. So when Ji Xiaoxiao wasn't paying attention, I caught up with him. Big brother. He was a bit surprised, but then nodded in agreement. I had never really pursued anyone before, so I was fumbling around, but I gave him my best patience and consideration. I knew he couldn't resist my face and figure, so I deliberately teased him. Sometimes I'd act pitiful. There were times when I felt like a green tea girl, but this is how it went. I watched as he went from distant politeness to shyness and hesitation. Finally, when I kissed him, he didn't pull away. At that moment, my heart was full. Every day I spent with him, I was so happy. I loved how he looked so dazed when he woke up. I loved how he'd rub my muscles when they were sore from training. I loved how he'd softly scold me. I was falling deeper and deeper in love with him. If it weren't for the legal age restriction, I would have dragged him straight to the marriage registry by now. While I was planning our happy future after graduation, he slept and then vanished. The apartment was empty. I was so pissed I could barely contain myself. I turned to Ji Xiaoxiao pretending to be casual. I heard there's been a BT around Happy Community lately. Ji Xiaoxiao was stunned, then quickly let out a relieved sigh. What, really? My brother lives there. I innocently suggested. Maybe you should get him to move. Ji Xiaoxiao laughed dumbly. He just moved to the 5th Avenue community. Such a coincidence. I smiled slyly. I didn't react much, but I quietly leaned in. Later, I guessed that Jibata breaking up with me had to have been orchestrated by my mom. I called my mom in frustration. She was furious as she scolded me, so I went back home to confront her face to face. Why did you go after him? My mom, her face full of anger, answered quickly. He's 6 years older than you. He must be some kind of no-good man. You can't be like me. Don't let a guy like him fool you. You're my only hope. I don't want you to end up like I did, with nothing. I stared at her, calmly saying, Mom, you're a little scary. She froze for a second, then quickly tried to regain her usual composure. But I wasn't going to let her pretend anymore. The failure of your marriage wasn't because of you. It was because of Dad. Your outward image is that of a successful woman. A DL woman. Why do you always dwell on the past? My dad is no longer as great as you. You should be happy. Mom, I'm not my dad. I like Jibata. I like her openly, without any shame. You can't stop it. What you should do is free yourself. My mom stood there, lost in thought for a long time. I don't know if she took it in. Anyway, her stiff shoulders relaxed a little. Luckily, she did hear me. She saved herself and freed me. Jibata, side story. I still remember the day we met for the DYTH time. Her eyes, filled with curiosity and passion, were irresistible to me. Her smile, like the warm sunlight on a spring day, illuminated my otherwise dull life. Every small movement she made could easily tug at my heart. I loved how clingy she was. I loved when she whispered softly in my ear. I loved everything about her. After we broke up, I thought about her every day. I missed the streets we walked down together. I missed the movies we watched together. I missed every ordinary yet precious moment we shared. Even knowing that these thoughts would bring me pain, I couldn't stop. Because in my heart, Liu Ryan will always be the way girl who made my heart race. Fortunately, fate was still kind to us. Now we're back together. Everyone around us has accepted our relationship. I feel like Jibata. I am the happiest man in all of SJ. End of the story.